Um, I was on a show earlier today, which will be recording tomorrow. It's the Big Ten football talk with Zach Guggenheim, and he wanted to talk to me about this very first topic that you've addressed, and this man is passionate about. So
I've heard him.
I'm
I've
gonna
heard you, Wild.
I'm gonna turn it over to the Wild Man to open up the floor. Let's have a great roundtable discussion. Chat, you chime in. We'll throw your topic. We'll throw your comments up as it relates to this topic. But Chris, take it away tonight, big guy.
All right, Juck. So you said you've heard my take on this already.
I have.
Um, so I am very passionate about that. I do think Ryan Day is on the hot seat. Before we jump in with my views, though, and exactly why I think that, what is your take on the subject?
So, my take is, I mean, I guess it depends, right? So, it depends on what you mean by the hot seat. Now, is he on the hot seat with the fan base? I think there's a whole lot of fans that find him on the hot seat. When I hear someone on the hot seat, my take is with his superior, as in like this year, you need to get it done or else. And I just kind of put myself, if that's what you mean by the hot seat, in this position of his superiors. And if I'm analyzing the program right now, as it currently sits after this offseason, with Ryan Day having definitely struggled in big games, it's unacceptable. The big games are, for sure. There's no denying that. The 1-3 record against Michigan is not acceptable. The 3 in a row is not acceptable. But we're looking at everything that's happened in this offseason, from the coaching staff changes, giving up play calling, uh, getting rid of the weak links on the coaching staff, and Perry Eliano, getting him out of here, getting Corey Dennis out of here, getting Parker Fleming out, the way he kind of pushed out Tony Alford, made a great hire in Coach Locke to replace him, hired Laurinaitis, gave Knowles his guy in Guerreri, who's kind of a really underrated hire at this point. We don't talk about him much, but he's a future defensive coordinator. Being able to keep Hartline happy for so many years and keep him involved and not, moving on. Being involved actively in NIL and bringing that up to one of the best in the country. He had a lot to do with that. We all know that. And when you look at all that, along with getting the senior class to basically all come back, that doesn't happen unless they love their coach and their program. Add on to that Saban's retirement and the power vacuum that was created there. Ryan Day ran circles around Texas, LSU, and Georgia in the attempt to fill that vacuum. Ohio State repeatedly swatted them away with everything, and now planted the flag. Got Naeem Offord, Malik Autry thinking about it, Ziggy Grady thinking about it. The portal was orchestrated beautifully. He hired Sam Petito. Nick Saban's Mark Pantoni, who's from Louisiana, actually made an offer last week. He has the opportunity to win the recruiting crown, and whether he does or he doesn't, Ohio State recruiting has never been as healthy as it is right now. And maybe even more telling than all these things, the parents, the Sanchez family, out there recruiting. I mean, their kid's the best corner in the country, and they're out there pounding the drum, recruiting for him because they believe so much in his program. And then you got a mom like Paris Johnson's mom, and Paris Johnson coming back to Columbus to help recruit David Sanders. And I guess finally, you would kind of look at the culture of the program in general. There's never any off field problems, there's never any issues with anybody. They represent the program great in the NFL, success in the NFL. The best young quarterback sings Ryan Day's praises. And when you take all that, if I'm the AD and I'm looking at all of those positives compared to the negatives, I guess what I'm asking myself is, how much longer do I give him before I tear this down if he doesn't get it done? And if I'm doing that, it's definitely not going to be just this 1 year contingent on just this one game. I just walked into this place. This guy's got it cooking. He's got it cooking. He's got the trend line straight up. And he's definitely getting 2 years if I'm in that position. And in my estimation, that is probably what he's thinking. So that's my case, buddy.
Fair enough. I feel that a lot of what you mentioned actually adds to that pressure and intensifies that hot seat because he's gotten so much with the NIL, because he has gotten So much money spent on this coaching staff, so much money spent on this roster. Since the recruiting has been so high for the last 3 years, since he's got all these guys coming back, since you do have a new AD, and you know as well as I do, typically when an AD comes in, he likes to bring his people. Do you not think that that doesn't add to the pressure this season? That if he doesn't get it done, if he goes 0-4, if he doesn't win a national title this year, given everything that we've seen, everything we've heard, everything, all the money that's been spent. I mean, we're paying Chip Kelly an absurd amount of money for a coordinator position. We're paying Jim Knowles an absurd amount of money for a coordinator position. We do have the best recruiting assistants in the country, I believe. We've year in and year out had among the best recruiting classes in the country, only to fall short. Don't you think that that adds to that pressure to get it done this season, or else, so to speak? Because eventually that NIL money is going to dry up. These boosters are going to dry up if the performance isn't there. At what point do the boosters come out and say, hey, you know what? This guy's just not doing it for us. He's taking us down to the Cooper road. He is Cooper 2.0. We're not going to wait for 2-10-1.
So I definitely agree that it does add to the pressure 100%. I just really, you have to look at, from my perspective, the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And the alternative is kind of tearing everything that he's just now got cooking. And I feel like we've been through all these growing pains through the Ryan Day learning how to be a head coach. Like, we've been through the worst of it. And now he's finally got everything looking like Ohio State's the place to be. The way these recruits talk about Ohio, like they want to come to his program. And that right there is just invaluable. And to make that contingent on, just, I don't know specifically what you're talking about, like what your criteria is that would be too much for you. Like, that's enough, you got to go. But I've heard people say, all right, if you lose to Michigan, you need to at least make it to the national championship game. And I think that's a fair perspective from a fan's point of view, to be honest. Like, I think that is. But if you're saying like he has to win the national championship or you want him gone, I don't know, man. It's football. It's really, really hard to win a national championship.
It is.
You know what I mean? I think that's kind of that's really an unfair bar, to be honest. That's just, to me.
Well, for me, it's like this. If you lose to Michigan again, you have to win the national title. There is no losing to Michigan 4 years in a row and flaming out in the playoffs 4 years in a row, or 3 out of 4 years.
Can I add one thing to this discussion that I think kind of adds some credence to your point, Chris, and really to your point, Juck. The way Ryan Day, with the help of the collectives, was able to build this roster this offseason is phenomenal. Number one, and needs to be credited, like you did, Juck. But number two, if he fails to beat that team up north again with this roster, I think it's a fair question that the fan base gets to ask is why. And not only that, I believe that the pendulum will swing from the vocal minority saying he's on the hot seat to the vocal majority now in the ear of the AD saying, you need to do something. This is unacceptable. What's your response to that, Juck?
I don't disagree with that at all. But you know what? Like, when I listen to Chris, like I hear his passion and his emotion, and I think we would hear a lot more of Chris's take in that situation. I'm just, coming from Chris's perspective, he's talking like a fan and not like somebody who runs an organization. Yeah, I don't think that's the way Chris talks at work. You know what I mean? Like about his operation at work. Like, he doesn't add that emotion into it. And Ross Bjork will not be adding his emotion into it, though he will be listening to the fan emotion for sure. And one of the things I always say is I believe not the reason, but one of the reasons that Ohio State has never gone down. We've never had a dip like anybody else. They've all had multiple dips throughout their program. All the other blue bloods, Ohio State never has. And I believe one of the reasons is because we hold our program so accountable when we see these other fan bases just stump for their program. No matter how many bad decisions they make, they stump and they fight everybody and they always got their programs back. Like they think that's what they should do. But in fact, you should keep your guys accountable. And we do a great job of that. I love that about our fan base. And, a lot of me agrees with Chris. Coming after that Missouri game, like I was like, dude, I'm done. This guy's got one more year, man. Like that's it. Like I felt that way. But when I look at a guy who has just made all these changes in himself, like he evaluated his program, and so many of these coaches stick their head in the sand and say, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. All I need is a break. He didn't do that. He tore stuff down. He changed the way he's operating. Um, and I feel like when you do that, to me, if I'm the guy who's running the show above him, I'm looking at a guy, okay, he just made a whole bunch of changes. Let's give him a couple years and see if his changes are going to pay off. Now, do I think this conversation is kind of moot? Yeah, I do, because I think we're going to whoop Michigan all over the field, right? Like that's what
Mhm.
I think. Um,
Agreed.
so I don't think that's really, right now we're talking just to talk about it. But, if you catch me the day after that game, guys, I might be feeling a whole different way. You know what I'm saying? Like if we lost that game, you know what I mean? Like right now I'm being logical, like trying to think of the guy who owns businesses and stuff. Like that's the way I'm thinking now,
Mhm.
right? That might not be the case then. And that's when I would hope that a guy like Ross Bjork would be the not emotional guy and think like, okay, let's let's look at everything he's done up until this point. He did kind of hit the reset button, change the way he's operating. I think it's fair at that point to now say, okay, as painful as it is to turn it back over to him if he were to lose to Michigan again, um, I feel like at this point he's got 2 years of buy-in from me if I'm the guy running the show. That's just what I'm thinking. And when we talk about an AD, you're absolutely right. They do like to bring in their guys, but when Ross Bjork was at A&M going through his coaching search, that wasn't really his modus operandi. He went and and checked out a coaching firm and came back with Stoops to them, and they didn't like that, and it wasn't like he had a guy picked out and he wanted to go do it. He kind of deferred to the board. So I don't know if that's really how he's feeling right now. And then we also look at the the basketball hire, the way he went about that, for just a little bit of evidence of how he would kind of maybe go about that. So I'm not quite so sure if that's how he's feeling about it, but it doesn't matter because, like I said, that game is going to be a one-sided affair, and we're going to whoop them all over the field.
There's a lot of time between now and the season. In fact, I think Thursday marks 100 days, if I'm not mistaken, to the
Correct.
beginning of the season. Um, and not only that, there's a whole lot more between now and when we play that team up north. There's a lot that could change. I think, in my view of starting to dig into the rosters, they're gonna have some really good players on that team still. They've got some holdouts that are gonna be some first round draft picks, early first 2 day draft picks, but they are just a couple injuries away from being a 6-6 football team. There is very little depth on that roster, and so there's a lot that could change. And and I know they're really feeling themselves right now after winning a natty, but that
For now.
Sharon Moore could lose that locker room like that if things start to slide away. Hey everybody, it's Buckeye Boggs from the OHIO podcast. If you could do me a big favor, there's one way you all can help right now the growth of this channel. That is giving us a thumbs up. Hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. The other thing you can do is you can become a member by joining our monthly membership. It's only $3.99. If you become a member, you will receive this awesome t-shirt, an official OHI podcast member t-shirt. After you've been a member for 1 month, we will send that to you in the mail. Also, you can when you do that, you'll get access to free content behind the scenes that we have only for members only. You will also be able to have extra little icons and graphics that you can use, little emojis that are specific to just this channel that only members have as well. The other thing you can do is you can purchase merch from our store. And so if you go on over to the ohiopodcast.com, the ohiopodcast.com, as you see here in the URL at the top there, you'll see that there's links at the top of the page for all of our articles that you can read: football, recruiting, basketball, other sports, podcasts, etc. You can email us. There's a contact there. We also have a store. The store is ran by Chris, the Wild Man. He runs an online store that you can get all kinds of memorabilia as well as a few items from the OHIO podcast. But if you want OHIO podcast merchandise, t-shirts, hats, etc., you're going to want to click on this merch link. And this takes you to Campus Sideline, who we have partnered with in creating official OHIO podcast merchandise. So the new alternate logo, that is our main logo now. White, you get it white, you can get it red. The famous We Want Angry Ryan Day t-shirt in white or red. We have that in a white hoodie, as well as the OHIO podcast in a white hoodie, and the fitted OHIO podcast hat as well. There's the prices for all of that is below each item. If you click on it, you can pick your size, add it to the cart, etc. We go from small all the way up to 5XL. And there is a little bit extra upcharge on the 4 and 5XLs, but that's to be expected. I'm sure any big guys out there will know that already. Anything that's beyond $50, you can do 4 interest-free installments with that as well. So if you get a big order and you don't want to pay for it all at once, you can do 4 installment payments for that as well. Campus Sideline, they print things off about every 2 to 3 weeks. So if you order, that order might take a couple weeks to print off and then ship to you, but it will get to you, we promise. And of course, the more people are ordering, the faster they will want to make those prints and get those shipped out to everybody. So please, you want to help us out, go on over here to our website, theohiopodcast.com. Go over to the merch store, click on merch, buy yourself some official OHIO podcast merch, and that will help us out here at the OHIO podcast. Thank you so much, guys. We really do appreciate all of your support. And of course, keep watching, keep loving the Buckeyes. We're going to be here. We're going to keep talking about them all off season and into the fall this upcoming year. Till next time, OH.